Some stories begin with extraordinary people. This one begins with an ordinary little girl who believed going to school was as natural as breathing. She wasn't trying to change the world. She was simply living in the kind of world every child should have known. Then, slowly, that ordinary world began to disappear. She was born into a valley of breathtaking beauty. Snow-capped mountains watched over winding rivers. Orchards blossomed with the rhythm of the seasons. To a child, it felt like the kind of place where life would always remain gentle. But landscapes can hide battles long before children learn to recognize them. While Malala filled notebooks with lessons and dreams, another story was quietly unfolding around her, a story that questioned whether girls should be allowed to learn at all. For Malala, education wasn't politics, it wasn't activism, it wasn't rebellion, it was simply school, the place where friendships grew, where curiosity found a home, and where tomorrow always seemed a little bigger than yesterday. Children rarely realize the value of ordinary things until someone tries to take them away. In many homes, silence had already begun replacing conversation. Fear has a way of doing that. It doesn't always arrive shouting. Sometimes, it simply persuades good people to whisper. But inside one home, something different was taking root. A father refused to believe that knowledge should ever be feared, and without realizing it, he was planting seeds whose harvest neither of them yet understood. There are moments in history that seem inevitable when we look back, as though the people who shaped them were always destined to do so, but history rarely feels inevitable to the people living it. Feels ordinary, until one quiet decision begins changing everything. Before the world knew her name, before leaders quoted her words, before millions saw her as a symbol of courage, she was simply a daughter, sitting across from a father who believed that education was not a privilege to be granted, but a birthright no child should have to earn. Ziauddin did not raise his daughter to become famous. He wasn't trying to create a symbol. He simply refused to clip her wings because the world expected him to. He spoke to her as though her thoughts mattered. He listened as though her questions deserved answers. And little by little, something invisible began to grow. Not confidence. Confidence rises and falls with circumstances. Something deeper. Conviction. Conviction is rarely inherited. More often, it is cultivated. It grows in conversations. It grows in encouragement. It grows every time someone chooses truth over fear. By the time the world noticed Malala's courage, its roots had already been growing for years. The little girl, Malala Yousafzai, was born in Pakistan's Swat Valley, where mountains watched over childhood dreams, and where education would soon become far more than a path to opportunity. For Malala, it would become something worth risking everything for, because long before the world was watching, the battle had already begun, not on a roadside, not on a school bus, but in the quiet places where every conviction is first formed. Around dinner tables, in classrooms, in conversations between a father and his daughter. History would one day remember the attack, but history almost never sees the conversations that made the attack matter. Every conviction begins as a whisper, Before it is ever tested in public, it is first nurtured in private. Long before Malala stood before world leaders, she had already learned something far more important. That truth does not become more valuable because many people believe it, nor less valuable because many people oppose it. Truth remains truth. The question is whether we remain faithful to it. Malala did not wake up one morning determined to become a symbol. She woke up wanting to learn. That is what makes her story so profoundly human. Greatness was never her ambition. Faithfulness was. And history has a remarkable way of remembering people who remain faithful, long after it forgets those who merely sought to be remembered. The world often mistakes revelation for creation. It celebrates the moment something becomes visible, forgetting that the deepest transformations spend years growing beneath the surface. Oaks do not become mighty in a single season. Neither does conviction. By the time history noticed Malala, the most important work had already been done in places history never thought to look. That is the quiet tragedy of headlines. They report what happened. They rarely explain what made it possible. A photograph can capture a moment, cannot capture years of conversations. A headline can describe an attack. It cannot describe the father who refused to teach his daughter that fear deserved the final word. Nor can it fully reveal the daughter who slowly came to believe him. Every morning, children across the valley made the same familiar journey. School bags rested lightly on their shoulders. Laughter drifted through narrow streets. Lessons waited on classroom blackboards. To anyone watching, it looked wonderfully ordinary, but history has an unsettling habit. It often approaches disguised as an ordinary day. No child wakes believing that today will divide life into before and after. Children think in terms of tomorrow's homework, tomorrow's games, tomorrow's dreams. That is one of innocence's greatest gifts. It allows children to imagine a future without first calculating the cost of reaching it. Somewhere beyond the laughter, beyond the classrooms, beyond the hopes carried inside those school bags, another decision was already being made. A decision born not from curiosity, but from fear. Two journeys had begun that morning. One carried children toward an education. The other carried hatred toward a bus. Neither had yet reached its destination. Morning unfolded as it always had. Teachers prepared their lessons. Friends shared conversations they would soon forget. Pages turned. Pens moved. Laughter echoed through school corridors. No one knew they were living inside a memory that would one day belong to the world. They simply believed they were living another ordinary day. Perhaps that is one of life's quiet mercies. We are rarely told which ordinary moments will become extraordinary memories. If we were, we might hold them too tightly to truly live them. So children laughed, as children should, and somewhere among them was a young girl carrying far more than books. Though she could not yet see it, she was carrying the hopes of countless girls she had never met. The final school bell echoed across the valley. The school day had ended. Desks were empty. Chalk rested on the blackboard. It was the kind of ending that had happened hundreds of times before. Familiar, predictable, safe. That is why no one noticed history quietly taking its seat beside them. The bus was not extraordinary. Carried students home every day. Children climbed aboard with unfinished conversations. Some laughed, Some stared through the windows. Others were already thinking about tomorrow. None of them knew that for the rest of their lives, they would remember this journey differently. Outside, the valley looked unchanged. Mountains remained where they had always stood. Trees swayed in the afternoon breeze. The road stretched quietly ahead. Nature offered no warning. It rarely does. Some of life's deepest fractures arrive beneath ordinary skies. Somewhere along that road, two completely different visions of the future were moving toward one another. One believed that knowledge should be feared. The other believed that knowledge should be shared. One sought silence. The other had learned to ask questions. Neither could continue unchanged. A collision had become inevitable, and somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, history quietly drew near. The bus slowed, not because anyone inside sensed danger, simply because the road demanded it. Then, a voice called for the bus to stop. Confusion arrived before fear. Questions came before answers. Time, for one brief instant, seemed unwilling to move. Then, a single act of violence attempted to silence a voice that had refused to be silent. The valley held its breath. News spread with astonishing speed. A father heard words no parent should ever have to hear. Friends struggled to understand what had just happened. Teachers searched for hope inside unfolding uncertainty. A nation watched. The world would soon follow. History would remember the attack. But history would be transformed by what happened next. A voice weakened, but not erased. A conviction tested, but not surrendered. A little girl whose story had belonged to one valley was about to belong to the world. The attack lasted only a moment. Its consequences would echo for generations. In the confusion that followed, there was no celebration, no triumph, only disbelief. Friends called out to one another. Parents prayed for news that seemed painfully slow to arrive. An ordinary school day had become a nation's heartbreak. Within hours, the story spread far beyond the Swat Valley. What had begun as an attack on one schoolgirl quickly became a question the entire world was forced to confront. Why would anyone fear the education of a child? The answer revealed far more about the attackers than it ever did about the girl they had tried to silence. As doctors fought to save her life, uncertainty filled every waiting room. Machines, medicine, and skill would all play their part. But there were battles no surgeon could fight. A father's hope, a mother's prayers, friends refusing to surrender their faith. These belonged to a different kind of courage. In the hospital, every hour mattered. Every small improvement became a reason to believe. For her family, the struggle was measured differently. They were not thinking about headlines. They were thinking about smiles, about opening her eyes, about hearing her voice again. Recovery is rarely a single moment. It is 1,000 unseen moments stitched together. Hand learning to move again. A voice finding its rhythm. A body healing. A spirit quietly refusing to surrender. There were easier paths waiting for Malala. She could have chosen silence. She could have stepped away from public life. No one would have blamed her. The world had already seen the price she had paid. Yet conviction asks a question comfort never can. If fear decides my future, what has fear truly defeated? Healing did not erase the memory of that afternoon. It transformed its meaning. What had been intended as a warning became a witness. The attack had revealed something its architects never intended to reveal. Ideas rooted in truth are remarkably difficult to silence. When Malala spoke again, the world listened differently, not because her voice had become louder, but because it had survived. Some voices persuade through power. Others persuade because they have already endured the cost of what they believe. Years later, awards would come. Recognition would follow. History would remember her name. But none of those things explain why her story matters. They are consequences, not the reason. The reason is far simpler. A little girl believed that education was worth defending. A father believed his daughter deserved a voice. A family chose conviction over fear. And when violence attempted to end that conviction, it discovered something history has taught again and again. Truth may be wounded, but it refuses to surrender. Perhaps that is why Malala's story continues to inspire millions. Not because she never knew fear, but because she refused to let fear become her identity. Her life reminds us that courage is rarely the absence of danger. More often, it is the quiet decision to remain faithful to what is right, even after discovering what it might cost. And then, before we part, I want to leave you with one question, not about Malala, about you. What conviction in your own life is worth protecting, even when doing so comes at a cost? Stories are more than moments from history. They're invitations to examine the lives we're living today. If this journey has encouraged you, challenged you, or helped you see the world a little differently, then Malala's voice continues to do what it has always done. I'll meet you again in another story of human triumph, silent battles, and transformation. Until then, take care of your convictions. They quietly become your legacy. This is the power of pain, where every scar has a story, and every story leaves strength behind. Thank you for watching.